So you see that massive place there? It's my job to photograph it. Now I've been given the keys this afternoon, so I'm going to show you how to photograph various rooms within a high-end property. Let's go. Right, now we're in. So this place is actually used as a B&B hotel. It's quite an impressive place, and the agent has given me the keys and just told me to take my time because this isn't a smash and grab kind of thing. This is a take your time, don't rush kind of job. Try and make sure you've got everything perfect. Now the reason that it has to be perfect is because it's worth so much money. Now obviously there's these huge rooms. Now if I just go upstairs a level or two, I'll show you why houses around Worcestershire amass value. So obviously it's grand, it's, what's this, Georgian? I don't know. Not only is it amazing, it has spectacular views. Namely this here. So we've got to make sure that we do it justice and we show off those views to for the prospective new proprietor of this place. There's a lot of P's in that. The prospective new proprietor of this new place. New tongue twister. There are two things that sell houses. Any estate agent will tell you this. One is light and the other is space. With a flash gun, which is essential for property photography, we can show what's going on outside as well as what's going on inside. So without further ado, I'm going to set up the stuff and I'm going to do a shot of this room. Over in this corner here, there is a desk, obviously where the hotel manager does all her work. So what we can do is we can plant ourselves in that corner so we don't have to show it. One of my favourite phrases with photography, property photography, is out of sight, out of mind. And again, another rule with property photography, don't be afraid to move things, because trust me, later on down the line, you really will wish that you'd have moved it. So my job now is to maybe try and include this social area, the kitchen table going onto the kitchen. So the whole point of photography, again, I know I've said that 100 times, but is to, when you're viewing these photos, is to imagine yourself standing where the camera is shooting from. Beautiful. Okay, so that's that shot nailed. Now the next shot that I'm going to do is photograph this kitchen. Now this little ducky here, this wooden ornament, you face a crossroads very often. Do you put things in or do you take them out? I put things in. I add a little bit of character. So let's just put this little character here. So what we're going to do now is a higher shot. So I'm going to come up to about just below chest height. That looks cool. I'm going to widen the aperture a little bit. Sorry, I'm going to narrow it down to about f9. I'm going to put my ISO a little bit higher. And I'm shooting at 1/100th of a second at full power. The flash is going behind me because I don't want harsh highlights. Still a little bit dark. So let's point the flash a little bit more vertical. Close the aperture down to about f5. In fact, no, we can take the shutter speed down this time. We'll leave the aperture at f8. Good, right, now the room is properly exposed, so I know the flash is good. What I do need to do though is get the outside. So I'm going to drop the shutter speed and narrow that aperture down to about f16 because I want to see that blue sky. Almost there. I'm just going to speed up that shutter speed and actually increase the ISO. Because I've increased the ISO, I can take down the aperture. There we go. So now I can pull the flash back. Good. Right. So as you can see, it takes a lot of trial and error to get your shots right. It's all a balancing act. It's a compensation act. If you up your ISO, then close your aperture down. If you reduce your shutter speed, then maybe change your flash. But as a rule, I normally go for about 1/4 power, quarter power, 100th of a second with my shutter speed, anywhere between f8 and f16 aperture. Now the good thing is about controlling the aperture is that shows the blue sky that's outside. That's not such a biggie at the moment because we can't really see much of the view, but that will be needed very soon. Now remember to always turn off lights as you go, because you don't want to fall out of your estate agent because they came round a week later to do a viewing and they noticed that the gas fire was on. So always turn off your lights. This is the room that's really going to do a lot for selling the house. So I'm going to make sure that I'm in the corner looking at the room. Now, you don't always have to wedge yourself in corners to do property photography, but it does help. You can do close-ups of features and things like that, that's absolutely fine. But a lot of the time agents will want you to show off the space, and the way to do that is to stand in corners. And I always just look in every single corner just to see how the aspect changes. And most time, 99 times out of 100, I'll probably do all 4 aspects. And the final aspect I'll do will be this one. Straight down the middle, me looking down the line so you can see the distance. When you go up the ISOs, it just allows you just to get a brighter, crisper, cleaner exposure without really stressing the camera out and stressing yourself out. See, this is proof that you don't have to shoot in a corner every time, because I've just shot in the corner then, and to me there's a lot of dead space in the immediate foreground. So I'm now going to come in a bit closer and I'm going to, hang on, let the metering catch up, and I'm going to actually come into this social circle and shoot that. If I stand back a bit, that should let me get the chandelier in, yes. Perfect, excellent. So I've got a blue sky outside, I've got a bright interior, bang, job done. Okay, now it's the big one. So obviously I want to make sure that I can see the blue sky and the fluffy white clouds, and also that the interior is properly exposed. So let's just see what we were just shooting on. We were just shooting at f10, 100th of a second. We've got 2 chairs, a table. Let's move these books. I know they were in previous shots, but for this one it would be more noticeable. It's all about symmetry, so let's line up that middle pillar on the window with our shot. Okay, that's overexposed, and this isn't in the middle, so can I move this? No. Right, so I'm just going to have to deal with it. So I'm going to go f14 from f10. I'm going to bring my ISO down to 500. I'm going to go to set half power and keeping my shutter speed at 100th. My verticals are nicely aligned, and I'm going to go in a bit closer. I'm going to come down a touch. Nice. Okay, it's a little bit underexposed. I'm going to go full power and a bit closer. Okay, that's getting better. Aperture needs to just magical. And repointing that flash makes the world of difference. And because we've got nothing actually in the picture, where's the camera? Because we've got anything that will cast a shadow, we can actually point the flash and bounce it off the roof, and it will fall into the scene rather than throwing the light this way to come back. So that means it will hit it will end up in the scene quicker, which means we should get a brighter image. A bit dark, so let's go 1/4, quarter power, and I think that's it. I think we've got it. So trial and error. There's no formula that works for property photography, I find. You've just got to keep plugging away until you find a formula that works for you. Bedrooms. I would always recommend going down a little bit lower than you would in the kitchen or a lounge. So instead of going sort of chest level to shoot at a kitchen, so you want to see those worktops and the settees, the tops, see over the tops of settees sometimes. With beds, I would recommend just getting 2 or 3 inches above the height of the mattress. That enables you to get more floor space in and less roof space. roof space is a little bit of a waste of time. When it comes to selling houses, a lot of people aren't interested unless it's a really interesting roof. But in this case, it's not. And I'll show you another trick as well about using mirrors. Now, if I shoot here, now what I can do is if I shoot up against it, normally if you shoot up in a corner of a wall, you lose one sort of perspective of of your shot. Now, if you can shoot with a mirror in your foreground, that lets more light into your lens, which means that you can have more control over your exposure. And as well, it makes the room look bigger without cheating, because it's not cheating, because all you're doing is looking into a mirror. So we're doing exactly the same thing here. We're trying to get that blue sky in, which might be difficult. And we're also using the mirror to create light and space. So I think the sun's on the other side of this house at the moment, which is why this and the last room we've just done it been a little bit difficult, which is why we have to ramp up the ISO. So let's do this room now. Now, with lovely bathrooms like this, you don't want to spoil it by taking the picture and you noticing a bottle of bleach or some toilet roll. So make sure you do a bit of clearing before you shoot, because trust me, you will thank yourself later for it. So let's move the bin, the toilet rolls, the toilet brush, and the bin. Remember, less is always more. And also what we can do, when we've got bottles of product and things like that, what we can do is just lie them flat in the bathtub or in the sink, and then that sorts out that problem. Okay, so I'm just going to summarise a few things that I've just touched upon. So firstly, flash gun. You need a flash gun. This is a fairly cheap thing. I didn't go for the Canon model, which is a couple of £100 more expensive. This is a Yongnuo. This is my old one. This is the Yongnuo 560 Mark II. I've got the Mark IV for my off-camera flash stuff that I use at weddings, but this is more than enough. Apparently the colour cast is a bit blue, but that's never bothered me before. You should be shooting raw anyway, so you can always correct your white balance. So a few things that I really think that you should take on board if you're going to be doing property photography. First of all, don't be scared to go up your ISO range. That's why it was created. Going up your ISO range will allow you to use this properly, and when you can light the indoors correctly, you can also correctly light the outdoors. So if you want to show off blue skies or a view, using one of these will really help you do that. If you don't use one of them, you'll probably expose for the inside of the room, and the window will just be blown out. So always use a flash gun or a speed light. Second of all, move things. You're going to have to move things constantly. You're going to feel like a removal man sometimes, or a removal woman, because the amount of times you have to move things that the vendors left out that they didn't realise was in the way. So just move things, because you can always move them back. And trust me, it's always better to move things now than to let it just lie there and then you have to Photoshop it out. It's just creating more work for yourself down the line. So it only takes a few seconds just to move things and then move it back. Remember, light and space sells houses. So always, even though the room might feel really light to you, if you can just stop down the aperture, and then you can really show the ambient light. So you can show the lights, show off these chandeliers, for example. Even though there's a lot of available light, you can still show off the light. So always put lights on and turn them off. If you want to stay in the vendor's good books and you want to be able to get keys from them other times to do other properties, then don't annoy them by leaving lights on. And it's also obviously very dangerous to do that, because if you've got keys, chances are the vendors aren't in to turn them off themselves. As well, think of your property photography a little bit like landscape photography. If you are a disciple of the foreground interest movement, then you will no doubt be no stranger to putting something in the foreground of your picture. So do that. You can use things like these flowers. You can use that duck that I used. Things like that just add a little bit of character, and as well, they really complement feature walls, feature windows, and various other features that you can photograph to show off the property. Converging verticals. Always keep those verticals upright. Try not to hold it head height and look down. Only do that if you absolutely have to. I never do that. I think that is rubbish property photography. When you finish this video, just have a look on Rightmove now. Have a look at so many photos over £1 million, £500,000, depending on where you live. In Chelsea, that'll probably buy you a 1-bed studio flat. In around here, that's quite a big place to buy. When you have a look at it, notice that sometimes a dodgy or lazy photographer won't pay any attention to just coming down, shooting at hip height or chest height, and they'll just look down. So that is lazy photography, and don't be that person. Make sure that you shoot properly. Keep those verticals upright. And it's not cheating anyone out of any room, because when they come and view the property, it's as it looks. You're not cheating anyone at all. Another big thing that I learned from a YouTuber called Don Bauer, is a great photographer. You should check him out. I'll link him in the description. Leave doors open, especially if they're en suites or if they lead to a study or a hallway, because I believe that when you're looking through a list of photographs, you should always be able to, each image should link to the last one. So you should be able to see where the bedrooms lead to. And there's nothing worse than, you've probably been in the situation when you go and view a house and you love it and you can't remember how the layout of the rooms look, and then you look at the pictures and you just can't remember because they didn't photograph certain angles with doors open. So it's a little bit frustrating. So don't be afraid to leave doors open. Remember, if you want to get that blue sky nice and blue, then keep that ISO relatively high. I use about 500. Get your flash gun around about 1/4 power. Keep your shutter speed around about 100th of a second, and just vary your aperture. Start it off at f10, for example. If it's too bright, then just move it to about f16. F16, you should be able to see what's outside, but that will be quite a dark image. If you go down to f16, compensate with a flash, go half power, full power, then you should be able to nicely light your room and also get the nicely exposed outdoors. If you've enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. I'd love to hear your comments, and please subscribe if this is your first time seeing me. Check out my other vlogs and how-to videos, there are plenty of them. And for now, see you on the next video, and if you have made it this far, love ya. I probably won't keep that in.